We call this area Kaihayadle, shimmering waters. This is our home. Just like it's the home to the deer, the frogs, and the panther, this is our home.
This is the #1 cause of death, right?
In the last 2 weeks, we have 3.
It's been before my lifetime since the last female panther was documented north of the river.
This is nature's last stand.
It's not too late.
Good evening, graduates. Thank you, President Sass. As a proud Florida Gator, I love being here with you in the swamp. As a proud Floridian, I love all swamps. This past century, the swamps of South Florida gave the last refuge to our state animal, the Florida panther. These swamps were home to the last population of big cats in the eastern United States, and at one point, only 20 survived. These swamps also became my office. My commute looked like this. And often I had to yield to oncoming traffic that looked like this. Fellow Gators, tonight, many of you are thinking about your path ahead. I want to talk to you about our shared path. As graduates of this great university, we've been prepared and inspired to forge a path to professional success and a better world. My path began here, right here at UF, as a graduate student, and culminated after 20 years with the Path of the Panther project and the creation of the Florida Wildlife Corridor. What I have learned in this time is that the best path is a shared path, a path of collaboration that brings people together around the greater good and makes space for others. Whether those others are across town, across the political aisle, or even across species. I was finishing up my UF graduate classes in 2001 when I landed a photography internship that took me on expeditions to the rainforest of Central Africa. 3 years and 6 expeditions later, I'd published national magazine stories, I exhibited at the United Nations, but my path pointed me back home to Florida. Because every time I got on an airplane and came home from Africa, I saw cattle ranches and other green spaces replaced by roads and rooftops. And it felt personal. My family's been in Florida for 9 generations, and I have many cousins who are cattle ranchers here today. My cousin Doral Carlton Jr., who attended UF in 1940, he told me how as a child he helped move cattle on horseback for 3 days at a time, sleeping under the stars and never seeing a fence. His world was unseen, overlooked, and forgotten. I remember writing those words 20 years ago. It was the insight that led to my first long-term project photographing Florida's ranchlands and cowboys. It was the insight that led to my path, photographing places that must be seen to be saved. My journey into the heart of Florida to find the rare and elusive panther would also teach me about the profound power of shared paths. While shooting ranchlands in Central Florida, I learned how these wide-ranging animals, the bears and the panthers, needed those working lands just as much as any national park. And I learned about the science of wildlife corridors, which was pioneered by and is still being led by conservation heroes right here at UF. Wildlife corridors are stretches of land, both public lands and private lands such as ranches, that together form a larger connected landscape. Corridors give wild animals the space they need to survive. Corridors are literally shared paths. They're key to the survival of the panther and many other species, arguably including our own. With the help of scientists from the University of Florida's Center for Landscape Conservation Planning and partners from around the state, I started the campaign for the Florida Wildlife Corridor. I hiked and paddled with teammates for 2,000 miles through the last connected wilds of our state. And even with a lifetime exploring Florida's wild places, I had only once seen a panther with my own eyes, and that was just a fleeting glimpse across the trail. Yet I knew this mysterious and legendary cat was the key to helping people understand the need for the Florida Wildlife Corridor. It would become a story for National Geographic But first, I had to photograph the panther. I would be chasing a ghost, a phantom I knew was there, but may never see. So I waded waist-deeps in the swamps, dodging gators and clouds of mosquitoes, searching for trails I hoped a panther would cross. Then I set up a professional camera trap in a waterproof box triggered by an invisible beam. And the idea is that a panther will walk by and take its own picture. But the odds are against you. Even in my best spots, a panther might come by once a month, sometimes only once a year. And then it might not be facing the camera, and then my sensitive electronics that have been suffering in the heat and the humidity might not work. During my first 2 years of this project, my cameras caught lots of amazing shots of other wildlife. Birds and bears and deer, but no great photos of panthers. When the rare panther did pass, my photos were more like these. And more often than you would think, my setups would get attacked by other swamp animals. See, it's funny now, but each time a bear decided to scratch itself or floss its teeth with one of my camera traps, it would set me back for a month. I had cameras chewed by mice, burned by wildfires, drowned by floods, even once shot with a rifle. And then 2 years into the project, Category 4 Hurricane Irma wiped out half my camera traps. It was 2 weeks after the storm before I could even chainsaw my way back to my favorite places. And in my favorite site, I found my camera bobbing beneath the surface of the swamp. When I opened it, nearly a gallon of water, dark brown water, poured out, and the camera was ruined. But I was able to recover the memory card. What I found first were 3,000 false triggers from Irma. But then, beneath all of those empty frames, I found this. That sound in the background is like the sound of a gator I often saw when I was visiting that camera trap site. It's a wildness that has reverberated through the swamps since the time of the dinosaurs. The call of the gator reminds us of our own wildness and our strength to persevere. Just when my failures made me feel like my path was impossible, this image of a resilient panther flying through the swamp despite a major hurricane gave me the hope to press on. Finally, I had a photo I knew the world would see. And 4 years later, in 2021, the story was published in National Geographic with a double-page map of the Florida Wildlife Corridor. And thanks to my team at Wildpath and many partners, the Florida Wildlife Corridor Act was then before the legislature. And we gave a copy of the magazine to every lawmaker in Tallahassee. The law passed with unanimous bipartisan support, prioritizing conservation for nearly half of the state. And that was 10 million acres of our existing conservation lands and 8 million acres of working ranches and farms that helped tie the rest together. The Florida Wildlife Corridor took so much more than me, a camera, and an elusive swamp cat. It took teams of dedicated people across many organizations. It took passionate philanthropists and brave policymakers. It took cowboys and scientists, hunters and environmentalists, fishing guides and farmers, road builders and conservation agencies, newcomers and natives alike. It took the 115 House members and 40 senators who voted for the bill and Governor DeSantis who signed it into law. I am grateful to everyone who created this shared path. I am especially grateful for the love and support of my wife, Susie, a fellow Gator who is here tonight. who put up with a whole lot and all the time I was chasing after these Panthers. And to our children, Eldridge, Nell, and Carlton, perhaps a future Gator among those. Since the Florida Wildlife Corridor Act passed, the state has conserved nearly 200,000 acres and committed more than $2 billion towards a goal of conserving 1 million acres by 2030. Florida is now a global model for this shared idea, for this shared path to meeting the needs for people and nature together. Graduates, tonight you stand at a new trailhead, looking out across the horizon, empowered by the diploma you're about to receive and ready to forge your own path. As you do so, I hope you will remember the shared path. That's what my journey with the Florida Panther and the Florida Wildlife Corridor taught me. From the thousands of other species that rely on the same path as the panther, to the diverse partnerships that came together to inspire unanimous law. It's about the path we share. There will be times when the path feels dangerous, treacherous, narrow, or lonely. When that happens, step back and reframe your view. There is always a shared path. There is always a unifying story. Step far enough back, and we see that everyone in this stadium is part of the same family. And on that note, I would like you to help me in making a quick family portrait. You see, I've set a camera trap high up in the stadium over here near section 9. And if you all look to your left, we're going to do a gator chomp together, following my lead. Everybody up here too. Let's do this. Right hand over left. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Go Gators! That might be my best camera trap shot yet. Thousands of gators chomping together in the swamp. I want you to remember tonight when we did the gator chomp together. I want you to remember that you are never alone. I and the alumni of the University of Florida are behind you always. We will find our best success together. And remember, we are all strongest on the shared path. Thank you, fellow swamp lovers, and congratulations. Thank you.